Welcome to the Software Showcase. I am Mark Stedman, Vice President of Information Technology, and joining me in the studio today, as always, is Glenn Oliver, our team's project manager and all-around great guy. Glenn, it's great to see you.
Same here.
You know, it's been a little longer than a month, hasn't it?
A little bit, but I think it's going to be worth it.
I think it's going to be worth it too, especially because the reason that it's been longer than a month is because we finally got that elevator installed in our studio that we've been waiting for.
Oh, that's fantastic. Who are we going to be speaking to today?
Well, today we're going to have Matt Gerber joining us in the studio. Come on up, Matt. Ah, that's great.
Hey!
How was the ride on the elevator?
Nice and smooth, buttery smooth.
All right, Matt, it's good to see you. We are going to talk a little bit about digital security today, and we're excited to do that. So Matt is our infrastructure director as well as our director of support. And a part of his role is helping us manage digital security in the office, but also for all of you who work for WA, even those who travel and don't come in the office. Matt's a resource to you to help you think about digital security, how to manage your online presence and things like that, and to help you travel safely along with others. So, Matt, good to see you today.
Hey, glad to be here.
So let's start off by talking about Expat Digital.
What is Expat Digital?
What is Expat Digital?
I feel like I'm hearing this for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you asked. So in addition to our training called Know Before, which most of you are familiar with, hopefully all of you are familiar with, we have a training available to everyone at WA called Expat Digital, which I would highly recommend to anyone planning to travel outside of the country. So if you're interested in taking that training, just put a ticket in with the Helpdesk and we'll set you up with an account.
Yeah, so Expat Digital is a little different than the Know Before training in that it focuses on the things that are specific to people who are traveling as expats and thinking about your digital footprint, thinking about managing the data on your systems and things like that, keeping yourself and your team safe while you're traveling. So it's definitely very different content from the Know Before stuff, which is about keeping yourself safe from phishing and things like that. So it is actually a requirement if you're traveling with WA. It's maybe not a well-enforced requirement, but if you are traveling internationally with WA, you are supposed to do the Expat Digital training. No charge for that. We actually pay for a license that covers the entire organization. So even if you aren't traveling and you're just kind of curious and you want to know what it's all about, you're welcome to take it. How long did it take you to go through the training, Matt?
About 3 hours in total.
Okay, and did you feel like it was a good use of your time?
I did, and even if you're not traveling, but you're maybe going to be in communication with people that are overseas, I highly recommend it for that as well.
Yeah, and one other notable thing is that it's put together by some friends of ours who are ministry-minded, so it has a focus for people who are doing ministry overseas. It's applicable even if you were just traveling for the State Department or a for-profit company, but it is put together by people that we know and have done a great job with that.
Yep.
It sounded for me, when you guys were kind of sharing some of that information, that there was a lot of nuggets that just generally apply regardless of things that would be good to know even if I'm not traveling whatsoever. I heard you talk about the 3 C's.
Yeah, let's tease it a little bit,
Yeah.
Matt. Tell us about the 3 C's.
All right, so the 3 C's are cover, conceal, and compartmentation. So
Is cover like what we made you do when we made you hide behind the table?
yeah, actually, kind of is. Make it seem like there's nothing suspicious. Not that there is anything suspicious, but you just want to avoid scrutiny in general.
Yeah.
So an example of that would be use the email provider that everyone else is using. So everyone in the world practically uses Gmail or Yahoo. So if you come into a potentially hostile area with Swiss Mail or Proton Mail or something that's supposed to be super secure and locked down, yeah, it might be secure, but you might also draw unwanted attention to yourself.
Yeah, that's a great point. And of course, the other obvious point is if you are going to a place where it would be a problem to be affiliated with Wycliffe Associates, don't have your Wycliffe Associates email on any of your devices, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, good point. So what are the other 2 C's?
So conceal would be if you actually do need to carry data in, you could go to the step of encrypting it or putting it on like a secure thumb drive or something. You do run the risk of them saying, well, what's on this? But
Right.
sometimes that's a step that is the best to take. It really depends on the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's fair to say our perspective on encryption is it's good, especially if your device is stolen.
Yes, exactly.
So it's great if your device is stolen, but you should always be prepared when you cross the border, or if you were arrested or you were picked up, let's say by local authorities, they're going to ask you to decrypt your data. So the decryption, you're going to do that because you're probably not going to be willing to spend some time in prison overseas. So you need to think beyond, oh, this is encrypted, so it's safe. Right. You will probably decrypt it. You should decrypt it we would actually counsel you should decrypt it.
Right. And we have ways that we'll suggest later on why that will be okay.
Right.
And what you're actually taking with you and why it would be okay to give them that password.
Yeah.
And going to your point about theft, the most common reason that people will steal your equipment is just to resell it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to get the data off of it, but while they have it, they'll have access to your data, so it's good to have it encrypted.
Yeah.
And your further points bring me to the third C, compartmentation.
Yeah.
Basically dividing up where your data is.
Right.
So maybe you don't have your phone with your personal email, your work email, pictures of you hunting, because some governments may not like pictures of potential violence or guns, and your whole life on this one device. Maybe you just take your work stuff off of your devices while you're traveling and only access it in incognito mode.
Right.
So if someone does grab your computer, there's no trace of it.
Yeah.
And maybe you have like your personal email that's the default shortcut or on your desktop, and so they just look at your computer and say, oh, okay, there's your email, and it's just you talking to your friends or all the junk mail that you get or whatever.
Right.
They don't see your work email.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more later in the show about ways that we can help you to do that. We can help you to prepare to travel so that you don't have to take your primary work computer and take all this stuff off of it. We can help you with that, but that's a little bit later in the show. So cover, conceal, and compartmentalize, I guess, is the third C.
That's what I keep wanting to say, but it's compartmentation.
Okay, well, we're not totally sure that's a real word, but we'll go with that. So.
I looked it up because I had the same thought, and it checks out.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So Matt, we recently went to an event together that was with the Risk Management Network, and I think I learned a ton of stuff from that. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. It was with a bunch of other security-minded professionals like ourselves, and then they even had people from like the FBI and the State Department come in and present, and I thought it was really insightful.
Yeah.
The world's kind of a crazy place, and we forget about that when we're in our bubble in America, in Orlando.
Yeah, the world is a crazy place. One of the things that stuck with me from that was the idea that risk management is different from risk avoidance, right? So if you're engaged in ministry and you're traveling overseas to do ministry, you've already said, I'm not going to avoid all risk. I'm willing to take a certain amount of risk.
Yep.
So you're really more in a risk management sort of a mode of like, okay, well, what's an appropriate level of risk for me to take and how can I manage that? And one of the things that stuck out to me was this idea that risk management is about creating options for yourself. So if you have no options or one option, which is the same as no options, you're sort of stuck with that plan. That's all you've got. So do you have some options that we can think about creating for ourselves to help ourselves manage our risks?
Yeah, so trim down your data. This is not a direct correlation to your question, but I wanted to mention it before I forget. So if you get your laptop or cell phone stolen, it has all of your data, you're kind of out of luck, right?
Yeah, it's bad.
So again, dividing up your data on different devices will give you options like, okay, I lost that, but I still have this that they don't have. But along those lines, trimming down your data. I hardly ever go through my old email and delete it, but maybe if you're going overseas, do you really need 10 years worth of email on your phone or on your computer? Or can you kind of call that down before you leave?
Yeah.
And as far as options go, you have backups. Maybe you have a backup phone. As far as MFA goes, which I know is a topic that we're going to talk about at some point today.
A little bit later.
We've had people run into the situation where they have MFA on their phone that they use in America, and then they forget to put it on the phone that they're bringing with them, their burner phone. And then Microsoft pops up and says, hey, I need you to check out your MFA to get into your email. And guess what? They can't.
Right.
And then they're emailing us or calling us, and the time zones are completely flipped, and it's a mess. So remember, if you're traveling and you're bringing a different phone, to put that MFA with the 6-digit code on your phone that you're bringing with you so that that works overseas, even if you have no cell coverage. The 6-digit code doesn't require a connection to the internet or Wi-Fi.
Correct. Yeah, and let's go ahead and jump into MFA. We'll come back to the creating options, but MFA is a good entry point into that. So
Yeah.
We did recently roll out MFA, a year and a half ago. We asked everybody to start using multi-factor authentication, right? So the idea is if you have just my password, that's not enough to get into my account. Very, very important because, in this digital world, so much of our lives are relying on the security of our digital accounts, whether it's banking or work stuff and whatnot. So we require multi-factor authentication. The way we recommend is using the Microsoft Authenticator app with your WA account. The important thing to know about that is it's multi-factor authentication. So you can think of that as I have to have 2 factors, which is a password and this other factor, but you can actually set up multiple additional factors so that you're not stuck with just the app. So one of the things I like to do is I also give it my personal email. So I actually don't even need my phone. As long as I can get into my personal email, my work email will send a code to my personal email, and I can check that, and I can use that code. So I don't actually even have to have a phone, and that was a big help for me. I was on vacation, and I damaged my phone, and it wasn't a problem. I still had my laptop, and I was able to log into my personal email and use that to authenticate. Are there other ways that Microsoft will let you authenticate that you can think of?
Yeah, so personal email, which you covered. You can use the Authenticator app, which you covered, but you can both get the push notification where it pops up and you click allow, or the 6-digit code.
Right.
You can also get a text message, which is pretty handy. Like, let's say you have a smartwatch and your phone is halfway across the house. You just do text message and away you go. You can have it call you, either at your personal number or your work number.
Right.
So those are the options that we have enabled in our environment.
Yep. So the other thing that you can do, if you're traveling with a buddy or if you're traveling with a spouse, you could actually put their number into your authentication. So if you and I were going to travel, let's say, and we were going to take a dumb phone. Let's say we wanted to take phones that didn't have any data on them at all or something like that. We could actually put each other's numbers, both my number and your number in, and that way if one of our phones got damaged, we'd both still be able to authenticate.
Yep.
So all that to say, there's quite a bit of flexibility in the way that you can work with MFA, and adding additional ways for it to reach you is good about creating options.
Yeah, and just in general, this idea of traveling internationally aside, if you ever get the opportunity when you're logging into your bank or anything that is sensitive at all, go ahead and enable it when it pops up and says, do you want to enable two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication? Go ahead and do it. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
So let's pretend for a moment that people are convinced after this, like, oh, MFA, I've been hearing about this for a while. What's my next move? How do I engage this? In the case if they haven't, who would they reach out to?
Well, if they're with Wycliffe Associates, they have to.
Okay.
It's required. They already have it.
They will theoretically have already done it, right. But if they're asking, how do I add additional factors, do you know the URL off the top of your head?
It's aka.ms/
MFA
we
setup.
will, yeah, MFA setup. I thought so, but I wasn't sure.
It's MFA setup, and I will put it on the in the video description, and we'll also put it on the screen when we do this on YouTube. But yeah, aka.ms/MFA setup, and you can add those additional ways to get authenticated.
Yep.
You will thank me later, I think.
Add them all.
Yeah, yeah.
I think my personal favorite is probably the actual authenticator where it comes up with the digits that you put in. Because in this day and age, people can get their emails hacked or people copying SIMs and that kind of stuff. And this way, that is pretty darn secure.
It is the most secure.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing is that I believe our domain currently supports passwordless authentication, so you actually can skip putting in your password by just having it prompt you through the MFA, which you get a prompt and then you put that code in, and it will let you then not have to put in your big ugly password, which we hope that you're using.
Right.
So speaking of passwords, let's talk about password managers.
Okay, let's. So if you are in the habit, as most people would default to, of you just use the same password for everything, imagine that a hacker gets your account from some website you forgot you even used, Pinterest or Facebook, remember that? Yeah. Or any of those websites, and then they have your email address and your password. They can try it against all kinds of other common sites, and if you keep recycling the same password, they're going to get into those sites. A password manager allows you to just remember one password. It's called a master password.
Right.
Try to make it a more difficult password.
Yep.
But then you log into that application, and it remembers all of your other passwords. It'll fill them in for you either on your cell phone or on the website. We use Lastpass here at Wycliffe Associates, and we're happy to get you a license if you don't have access to it currently.
Yeah, I think what we would say about Lastpass is we picked it. It works for our environment. It's fine. I use it personally. It's okay if you use a different one as well. But what's important is that you use one with two-factor authentication.
Exactly.
Do not use it with only a password. That's bad. You want to use two-factor authentication.
Yep.
And one thing we like about Lastpass, just a little commercial for why we use Lastpass, is that we pay for corporate vault. So each of us has a corporate vault where we put all of our work passwords, but then it lets you have a free personal vault where I put all of my personal passwords. Now that's really handy because, number one, I share my personal vault with my wife, so that way we both can log into all the same sites because she uses my Facebook and doesn't have her own. which is another topic. But that way we have that. And then if I were ever separated from the organization, I would take that with me. I don't then have all of my passwords. Matt has all my passwords. They go with me. And if I'm traveling, I can actually log out of my corporate vault. There will be no evidence that I have that corporate vault, which has all my Wycliffe Associates stuff in it, and I'll just have my personal vault that has my own, passwords for my stuff.
Not only can you should log out of the corporate vault before you travel internationally.
Bingo, yeah. If you're all about reducing the visibility of your connection with the organization, logging out of your corporate Lastpass is a good way to do that.
Yep.
And LastPass also has family plans. So my family and I have our individual accounts, but it's all wrapped up under the one plan. It's very convenient.
Yeah, it's super helpful. Last time I checked, I had over 600 passwords in my personal vault.
Good to go.
Well, I'm
Good on you.
I'm pretty careful, and I've been using it a long time, so I'm careful to create one for every login. But it's amazing how many places you have to create an account. I just had it add another account this
You know
morning
what's
for
nice
something.
about LastPass? I don't have to remember them, and I don't have to create them.
Yes.
It'll do it for me.
It gives you nasty random string passwords and all that stuff. So
Some other helpful password hints would be, make sure you use long passwords. 12 characters or long would be recommended. Don't use something like your social security number or your birthday or something that's easy to guess. And believe it or not, don't store your passwords in your browser. When you open up Chrome and you log into the whatever website and it says, do you want Chrome to remember your password? That's really not secure. Actually, when we install LastPass on our computers here, it says, hey, do you want me to import all of your passwords that you have stored in Chrome? And here they are.
Yep.
So if that can figure them out, any hacker on your system can figure them out too.
yeah, so if you have a Mac, I believe that the keychain stuff is better than what's baked into Chrome.
That's true.
So that's okay. So if you're an iOS Mac person, that's okay. I think that's a fine way to manage your passwords, as long as you don't need to access them on a PC, because you can't.
Yep.
The Chrome one is okay if you take the extra steps of setting up a master password for it, and if you also add like the encryption salt to it. There are ways to do it, but by default, it basically just sticks it in there, and it's quite unprotected. Yes.
And 99% of people won't take those steps.
They do not.
So one other thing that we offer is corporately is the VPN, which is very handy if I'm working remote and want to get to the servers to get to the data that we mutually store there, and is good to use if you're in a coffee shop or an airport. But you brought something to light that I found interesting when saying, hey, when traveling, actually consider not using a VPN. Why is that?
Well, you don't want to use it all the time because, again, with the using weird email like Proton Mail or SwiftMail, it'll draw scrutiny. If someone's watching your traffic and they say, why is this guy using VPN all of the time?
Right.
As opposed to just sometimes. Sometimes it's normal. You're in a different country, you want a VPN into work, that's normal, but if you're constantly using it, that might draw scrutiny. You do want to use it if you're in a public area, public Wi-Fi, coffee shop, library, airport, definitely use a VPN at that point. Because what it does is it encrypts your network traffic, so if someone's watching all the traffic go by, they can't actually see what you're doing. It's sending your traffic encrypted, meaning it's all obscure and a bunch of random characters from your laptop to the VPN server far away, and then the VPN server does all the browsing for you and sends it back encrypted. But it's pretty common for someone to set up a network that's not secure, and they are in fact listening and trying to get passwords off of it.
Yeah, the old man-in-the-middle attack.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because if you access your email in a browser, let's say you go to office.com and you log in to get your WA email, which you can do, that is actually encrypted over SSL. And as long as your connection to the internet is secure, you're actually as secure as you would be with VPN. You're not going to get any more security by using VPN.
So the HTTPS is what you're talking about.
Correct. And in fact, you can't access office.com in any way that's not encrypted. They reroute to the encrypted connection. However, if you are in some sketchy coffee shop and the coffee shop owner has, not had good physical security and somebody's put up another access point that's like free coffee shop Wi-Fi or whatever, like you see in the airports. I love that when I go in the airport and there's like Orlando airport Wi-Fi, and then there's like 17 other flavors of that, and I'm just like, those are bad networks. Don't get on any of those. That can actually be broken. That encryption can be broken because they have hardware in between you and the actual internet connection.
Yeah, if you're ever browsing to a website and you see a little error that says like a lock with a red X through it and says this connection is possibly not secure, are you sure you want to proceed? If you're on a public Wi-Fi, you do not want to proceed.
Say no. Correct.
It's likely that you're in a situation Mark identified where someone has set up a pretend network and they're actually decrypting your traffic and then passing it on and they're capturing all of your information.
Yeah, it's very, very bad. as technical people, occasionally we will say, I want to proceed anyway because I know I'm on a secure network and I'm trying to troubleshoot something, or I happen to know that this website's got a problem with its certificate and I'm working on that.
Yeah, it's my fault that it says that.
Right, right. So we may do that, but in general, as a regular, normal end user, when you see that and it says, take me to safety or whatever, you should do that. And if we're accessible, feel free to reach out and ask and say, hey, I'm having a problem getting to this or that. If it's a WA service, let us know and we'll figure out if it's actually broken or if you're on a bad connection. But yeah, it's probably better to avoid at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier you mentioned incognito mode. What is that?
Oh yeah.
So every browser, Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Safari, Internet Explorer, Firefox, I think those are all the major ones.
Mm-hmm.
They have a feature where you can be private. Some of them call it in private, some of them call it incognito. And basically it doesn't save any of your cookies or your history.
Right.
So you can use that tab, go to a website like your work email if you're in a different country, and then when you close that tab, if someone goes through your history, it's not going to be there.
It's not there. Yep.
And so it's just a secure way to browse.
Right.
I actually usually browse in that by default myself because it just reduces the amount of cookies and tracking that happens.
Yeah. So that's actually one of our strong recommendations is if you're going to a place where you're concerned about digital security, going to a country where it might not be great to be associated with Wycliffe Associates, but you need to get into port or you need to get your email or whatever, and you've taken the steps of taking it out of your Outlook and done all the things that we've said, then you can access that and you can feel fine about that in your hotel or wherever you are that you have internet access. Open up that in private tab, look at your email, and then close all that out, and that there's nothing trackable there, it's all gone. And the same would be true of port.
Yep. Would you like to talk about social media?
Yes, let's talk about creating options with social media, Matt.
All right.
Is one option to not be on social media?
Yeah, it is.
Got that.
If you can do it, it's a great option. It
Yeah.
reduces the stress in your life by a lot.
It does, which is actually a great option. Well, beyond that, though, actually, if you are serious about reducing your digital footprint, probably step one is don't be on social media.
Yeah, if
At all.
you're really in a dangerous place, for
Yeah,
sure, just
yeah.
be off of it entirely.
Yeah.
There's a quote that I liked from the training we talked about. Content is fire, social media is gasoline.
Right.
So if you're worried about someone catching your stuff, social media just takes it to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Let's say that you're on your way to another country, your flight is delayed, you're angry, you put on Facebook like screenshot of your app, my flight was delayed,
I hate country accents.
classic.
this airline is awful. Well, someone can see maybe your name, maybe
Yeah.
the seat, maybe they can tell which airline it is from the colors. If they get enough information, they can actually see your whole itinerary and maybe even see like who your travel buddies are.
Yeah.
And then even if you're not traveling, but you're talking about somebody who's traveling, you could totally give them up and give away information that could jeopardize their safety in another country.
I didn't really believe so I get emails from friends who are missionaries, and they always have like a little like, please don't repost this on social media, and I'm always like, man, what are you so worried about? Then at our conference that we were at, they actually showed us a video where some very difficult people had taken a church service off of YouTube, talking about, oh, we're sending this mission team to this country, and we're going to minister to all these people, and we're going to do all this stuff. And they had figured out who these people were and were showing. It was unbelievable to realize that actually does happen.
And I think they had been attacked or killed or kidnapped or something.
Yeah, bad stuff
Yeah.
had occurred.
So if you are wanting to bring your missionaries up at your church and share about where they're going in the world, maybe if they're going to a sensitive area, just don't put that part online at all.
Turn off the cameras, yeah. I really didn't think it was that big a deal, but the event that we were at, the conference we were at, really helped me see, no, it actually is a big deal. If you're in the wrong place, it actually is a big deal. You need to seriously think about how you are online, if you are at all.
Yeah, the bad guys know how to use the internet too.
That's a great point. Yes, sometimes better than we do.
Yeah.
So did you have a recommendation? I think you mentioned something earlier before when we were talking about looking at your digital footprint. What was that?
Yeah, so it's a good eye-opener to see how visible you are online. Now, the idea is Google yourself and say what you can find. However, if you actually are serious and you're actually in danger, or potentially going to be in danger, don't Google yourself because you'll actually increase the likelihood that you turn up in the search results. But there's a website that we have access to. It's a paid website, but I'm sure that WA or your manager can talk about paying for it if you're in that situation, called digitalfootprint.io. And it will go through and search Google and all the LinkedIn and everything, and see what it can find about you online, because you'd be surprised how visible you are online if someone's looking to see who you are.
Yeah, yeah. The reality is, it's very hard, unless you're really intentional for a long time, to keep the details of your personal life from showing up online.
Yeah.
I know personally it's impossible to separate myself from Wycliffe Associates, having been on the team now for a dozen years. If you Google my name, you're going to see that I'm a part of WA. So if you are going to be moving into the world where you are going to be traveling more in places that matters, you need to work very diligently not to have that stuff associated with your name. So let's talk a little bit about services and how we can help people get prepared for travel, unless you had anything else first.
No, we can talk about that for sure.
Okay, so how can we help people get ready for trips, Matt?
So we would be happy to, we being the help desk, help you prepare your phone for travel by helping you take off email, get rid of old email, maybe get rid of WA apps like Teams and OneNote and Office that are associated with your accounts here on your phone. We can also help you set up a burner phone or a temporary phone if you want, make sure your MFA is working on that. We also have loaner laptops, and we don't really advertise that as well as we should, so here's us advertising it right now.
That's right.
We would be happy to give you a temporary, wiped clean, completely separate laptop from your normal one for you to take with you on your trip. And then you just give it back to us when you get back safely.
Yeah, and we would encourage you to have your personal email on there, and I don't know, make it look like it's your laptop. Feel free to put personal stuff on there so that if you say, hey, I'm here as a tourist, it looks like you're a tourist. But don't put your WA stuff on there at all. Don't have any WA documents on there or any other, don't log in with your WA accounts.
Yep.
Just have only the things you need. The rest of it is almost all accessible in a browser. You can use Teams in a browser. Maybe you don't know that. If you need to Teams with your folks in the States or whatever while you're traveling, it's fine. You don't have to have the Teams client installed. You can just use it in the browser.
All of Office 365, that's how I mostly do, is through the browser.
Yeah, all your documents that are in OneDrive are available to you in the browser, and you can open them up in Word Online or Excel or whatever you have. Like, you don't give up a lot if you're traveling, and you do all that in your In Private tab, and you won't have any footprints left behind as soon as you close that out.
Yeah. And one of the things we'll do before we give you that laptop is make sure it's updated. So we can talk about Windows updates and updates in general.
Let's do
as
that.
Another part of security.
Yeah.
So if you ever have a pop-up on your cell phone or computer that says, hey, there's an update available, would you like to update? The answer is yes, I would like to update.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have to do it right then and there and reboot and lose whatever you're working on, but in the next day or two, go ahead and let it run the update, especially things like Adobe and Office. And then as far as your phones go, yeah, your phones as well, but iPhones are generally pretty secure. We don't necessarily recommend antivirus on iPhones, but do the updates when they become available because they are patching vulnerabilities. Androids are maybe a little bit less secure.
Yeah.
And so if you have an Android phone, which about half the world does, maybe it's a little more, a little less, I'm not sure, do use an antivirus or an anti-malware on your Android phone. The brand that does guarantee regular security updates is Google Pixel. So if you want to stay in the Android ecosystem, Google Pixel is a good idea because they do guarantee security updates for years to come after you buy it.
So with the other major manufacturers of Android phones, Samsung, because they like to curate their particular version of that update so it works with their particular phones. So you're recommending that they have virus protection in addition to that phone. What are you recommending?
Sophos, McAfee, really it's your personal phone, so whatever you feel good about the price and whatever specials they have going on, whatever works best for you. But any of the major ones, anything that's reputable and that you've heard before.
Or feel free to bring your Android in here, and we'll take care of it for you and send you to the Apple Store to get an Apple device.
Yes, yep.
That would be an option.
And as far as Windows goes, if you're using an unsupported version of Windows, like Windows XP, Windows ME, Windows 7.
Oh my. Stop.
Yeah, sorry, I know. But Windows 7 would be the most common one that people might still have at their house or whatever.
Yeah.
You might want to stop because they're not releasing updates to that anymore, and so it's no longer secure. Especially, don't use it as a work computer. We phased out Windows 7 more than a year ago before it became unsupported by Microsoft here.
So if you have WA-issued equipment and it still has Windows 7, please let Matt know, and we will pay you a bounty to turn it in.
Yeah, that's right.
The bounty will be we will give you a new computer that's up to date.
That's correct. Yeah.
So, Producer Man, have we had any questions in the QA channel?
Yes, we did.
Okay. You want to get on mic and read them to
Yep.
us, or shall I just
I
repeat
got you.
them?
I got you right here.
Okay.
All right. So the first one is the training that you were talking about earlier for the worldwide travel. Is that something you need to do in 1 3-hour sitting all the way through, or can you break it up? Can you pause it
Expat
and
Digital.
Good
come
question.
back?
Do you have to do Expat Digital in one shot?
No,
Okay.
you do not. It's broken up into 5 modules. I did it over several days when I had time.
Yeah. I think, the modules are 30 or 45 minutes, something
Yep,
like that.
and you can pause it and leave it and come back to it. So the
Right.
answer is no, you don't have to do it all at once.
Yeah, great question. And is it just expatdigital.com or something like that?
I don't recall the website, but
Okay.
we can certainly give it to anybody who emails us and asks for
We'll
the
put it-
training.
Or follow the link.
Yeah, well, follow the link. We'll put it on. We will. Okay, what else have you got, Mr. Producer?
All right. Do you have a recommendation for a password manager that is available on a phone?
LastPass.
Yep, Lastpass is available on a phone. There are a dozen other good, reputable password managers. You don't have to use Lastpass just because we do.
Yeah.
But most of them have a mobile app, including Lastpass.
Yep, correct. What else?
How long before traveling should people contact the IT help desk support desk to get help with phones and computers?
I'd say a month would be a good lead time if
I was going
it
to say at
comes
least
up.
a few hours.
Yeah, right. Especially on a Friday afternoon.
Do it right after you do your COVID test.
No, a month would be plenty of time for us to coordinate if we have to send you any equipment or remote in,
Yeah.
with schedules being busy. But obviously things come up last minute sometimes, so
Yeah.
if
Let us
it's-
know when you know.
As soon as you know, let us know. Yeah, you don't have to tell us 6 months in advance.
Yeah, not 6 months. And if you're in town, obviously it's a little shorter because we don't have to ship.
Yep.
The other thing is if you travel a lot, talk to your manager about getting another computer. It's okay. Computers aren't that expensive. We can do a second computer if you need one.
Yep.
If you're on the road every month going to places where you don't want to have a WA footprint, talk to your manager about getting a second computer. We'll get you set up with a second computer so that you can travel and feel safe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good question.
They keep coming in. So can I use WA Sophos on my personal device?
No, we don't have licenses for that, unfortunately. We have to pay for every license, and we have enough for WA devices.
Yeah.
But it's a good product, so if you want to pay for something for your personal device, that would be a good one. But there are some decent free ones, too, for your personal device. Windows Defender from Microsoft is free. Macs don't really need antivirus. You get a Mac, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll say that Windows Defender is way better than nothing and probably about as good as something you pay for, in my opinion. That's
Yep.
sort of my sense of it. So
Yep.
just make sure if you do have Windows, make sure Windows Defender is turned on. I think it's on by default. I think if you turn it off, it yells at you. So at least you're not, completely out in the wind without it.
Yep, just make sure you're using Windows Firewall, Windows Defender. You're going to be pretty much okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So for supported staff, they're Googling themselves and their support page shows up. Is that a bad thing? Do they want to try and hide that?
So you can talk to Rachel Ropp, and she can take you off of showing up if you want. If you are concerned about your name showing up with Wycliffe Associates, and that's a problem, then yes, you would want to do that. It will take some time for Google to purge those results. So if you are concerned about that, you should do that as soon as you can and get that taken down. I think Rachel can make it so that you can still receive gifts online. I can't remember exactly what they do, but there's a way to have your name not be on there, but still have people be able to donate for your personal support without
Would they
you
still
having
be
to
able
pay.
to share a direct link to that page?
I don't know.
Okay.
Great question. Probably, if nothing else, they can change your name on there to some other pseudonym.
Cool.
That way you can still have a name and a picture that's not you, and you can let your supporters know, you're going to go here and it's going to say, Glenn and Matt,
Inigo Montoya.
Inigo Montoya, or whatever, and it's going to have another picture, but that's correct and it's me, or whatever, something like that.
The next question is, what are the details about the WA LastPass vault? How do we get information on how to use this?
Just put a ticket in with the help desk and we'll be happy to set you up. It's possible your department already has a departmental account with shared passwords set up, and we just need to get you an account and we'll help you register for that.
Yeah, and it's what, $30 a year, I think?
Yeah, it's,
24 $24 a year.
yep, per
Yeah.
user. Yep.
Yeah, we'll bill it to your department.
Yep. Money well spent.
Money very well spent, yes. Well worth $24.
And then the last question, I guess, is along the lines of, any more thoughts on Apple Keychain versus LastPass? Is the conclusion one is simply better, or are they both suitable?
They're
Yeah.
both great. Apple Keychain is perfectly fine. LastPass you can share across Windows devices. as well, not so much with Keychain. But as far as personal devices, yeah, Apple Keychain is just fine, and it works on your Mac and your iPhone, obviously.
Yeah, I'm not sure with Keychain if you can share passwords with other people in your family.
I don't think you can.
Yeah, so that'd be another plus for Lastpass.
Actually, I'm going to chime in. You can.
You can.
Okay, you can. David uses more Mac than I do. I don't use Keychain. I just know that it's a part. Because I don't use a Mac laptop enough to justify moving over.
As far as being secure, though, yes, Keychain is secure.
Right. Yep. Anything else? So Matt, we're going to talk about one more topic briefly. We're going to talk about virtual kidnappings because I think that's worth talking about, and then we're going to get to bullet time. So we ran out of people to ask to virtually kidnap Matt. So what's a virtual kidnapping, Matt? What would that even mean?
So virtual kidnapping is something that Mark and I learned about at the risk management conference he mentioned. I had never heard of it. I assume you'd never heard of it.
No.
So what happens is you go to a country, Mexico or anywhere else, and someone gets you to believe that you're being kidnapped, but they're not actually there. So you get a phone call at your hotel room and they say, hey, we're outside of the door with 3 guys, or we're watching you from across the street, look out the window and see this car, which may or may not even be there. And they convince you that you are in imminent danger and that they have the ability to harm you. And then they get you to do things like get rid of your phone, check into a different hotel, give them the contact information of your family and friends back home so they can call them and say, hey, we've got your friend or your family member kidnapped. You need to send us money.
Yeah.
They even will have you take pictures of yourself tied up and you tied yourself up. Or he even shared that they'll have you go down the hallway to somebody else. They're doing this to you. You take pictures of them tied up. They take pictures of you tied up.
Yeah.
And then they can convince the people back home that you've been kidnapped and you're about to be tortured or killed or whatever. But you're never actually in danger. So it's a crazy thing.
Yeah, I want to pause for a moment because if you're like me, you're sitting there and hearing what Matt said and you're thinking very skeptically, what moron would fall for this? But I want to encourage you to take a moment, step back and think about, I've just landed in a foreign country. Maybe I'm not that familiar with this place. It's a new place for me. I got a cab, from the airport. I checked into the hotel, and 5 minutes after I check into the hotel, my cell phone rings. And it's a local number, and I answer it. And on the other end is a very rough-sounding guy who says, you're being kidnapped. Now, if you put yourself in that place, you're tired from travel, they called your personal cell phone. This actually, I could see where this would actually be very scary when somebody says, yeah, no, I have guys in the hotel that are watching you, and if you leave your room, we're going to hurt you. That's actually a very real threat. Now, how did they get your cell phone number? Well, you gave it when you checked into the hotel. Or maybe the cab driver tipped them off. So the thing is, there's systems here that are in play that you need to be aware of, or that could potentially be in play that you need to be aware of, that see a traveling American businessman or businesswoman that make you a target for this sort of a thing. Now, I'm not really sure what the best response is. Part of me wants to say you probably shouldn't answer your phone in another country unless you know who's calling, right? Like you should receive phone calls from the people that you expect to, but don't just answer random numbers. So anyway, we just wanted to mention, this is probably an area to do a little bit more research on. If we hadn't heard it from an FBI guy, was it an FBI guy who came to talk about it? Who said that they've had some hundreds of virtual kidnapping cases in Mexico last year.
It's becoming very popular.
Yeah, and it's actually being run by gangs out of prison, believe it or not. So it is actually bad guys on the other end of the phone. And the question is, you don't know, well, if I walk out of here, am I going to get beat up? Am I going to get pulled into a van or not?
He shared that even police officers have fallen for it.
Right.
So when they get you afraid, they keep you on the phone, they don't let you get off the phone, they're yelling at you, your brain kind of stops thinking correctly and you just panic and you do whatever they say. So if you ever are questioning, is the situation legit, if you're ever feeling fearful, just take a deep breath, take some time, let your brain cool down and start thinking properly again.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's likely you're not actually in danger.
Yeah, I almost feel like we should do a whole show on virtual kidnapping and get some more research in to talk about the ways to handle it. So to that end, I'm going to give a small commercial for our security team, as led by our friend James Cobb, who we met at the same event that we were at.
Great guy.
Yeah, James is a great guy. So if you're traveling internationally, you should know that beyond the digital security stuff that Matt will help you with, there's actually a team that you should know about who will help you with briefings about where you're going, help you think about physical security and things like that. You should talk to your manager about how to get a hold of them. I don't really want to put that on our YouTube video, and so we're going to kind of leave that for you to figure out, or let us know, and we can talk to you privately about how to get a hold of that. But there are people on the WA staff who will help you think about where you're going and appropriate ways to prepare yourself for physical security as well as digital security.
Yeah, we can even get you communication devices that will work with no cell coverage.
Right.
And like basic text messaging, but
Yeah.
emergency situation type of things.
Yeah, we have options for that. They're not really ours to talk about, but those are also options for you.
Yep.
Matt, it's been great to have you in the studio today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're glad to
It's
have
been
you.
super stressful, and I feel like I got homework now. I need something lighter for a moment here.
Well, Glenn, what should we do? What time is it?
Oh my word.
It's clearly bullet time. Well, Matt, as you may or may not know, we often feature a segment at the end of the show called Bullet Time, which is an opportunity for the folks who are watching the show to get to know you better as a person. So these are not work questions, they're personal questions.
Mark, I did not know.
Well, that's because you don't watch our show, Matt. I don't know what to do with that. So to that end, we have some questions prepared so that folks can get to know you, and David is going to put them on the screen because we don't remember what they are. Lay them on.
So in your opinion, who is the tallest apostle? Your opinion.
Paul, tall.
All right, fair.
Fair enough. It's as valid as any other guess. Next question.
Oh.
Matt, what's on the inside of your birthday cake?
Banana cream filling.
Ooh.
Nice. Sounds good. Man, I've got a hankering for a piece of cake right
Maybe some Oreos too.
now. Oh,
Excellent upgrade.
right on. Nice. But no peanuts.
No.
No peanuts.
No.
Okay.
Along those lines, though, my favorite Oreo or Blizzard from Dairy Queen is Oreo cookie jar, which is Oreos in cookie dough with a banana mixed in. My wife thinks it's a weird idea, but I think it's fantastic, and I highly recommend it.
And almost healthy.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's got
Banana,
fruit.
banana.
Yeah.
This is an appropriate time to ask you your preference with cardio and weights. Now that we've talked about your favorite cake, do you prefer
Burn it
cardio
off.
or weights?
How are you going to do it?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
prefer both.
He doesn't have to pick
I
either way.
I could have
mixing
predicted
it up.
that. Yeah.
He likes to mix it up. Obviously, you do CrossFit.
Yes, and run. So
Nice.
they're both good.
Good for you.
All
What's
right.
next?
Oh.
Matt, if you could, would you travel 100 years into the past or 100 years into the future?
I'm gonna have to say the past because I don't know what the world's gonna look like in the future.
You could get there and it's a giant dark room.
Yeah, it could be nuclear Armageddon.
That's true.
And flying cars.
Yes, some flying cars,
Yeah.
or everyone's just wearing virtual reality goggles and they're all on a spaceship like Wall-E.
Yeah, it could be. That's right.
Speaking of spaceships,
Speaking of
our next
spaceships,
question.
That's right. Would you go to space if you knew you could never come back?
If I was old and had accomplished what I wanted to here, like raise kids, maybe even met my grandkids that were all taken care of and set, sure,
You'd do it.
Yeah.
answer.
One-way ticket to Mars.
yeah, let's go.
Is Lynette going?
No.
I feel like there's more to talk about, but bullet time doesn't allow for additional exposition.
All right, we need one more piece of advice
One
from
more.
you.
Yes.
And
this
that's
is
the
the one
last
we
one.
actually warned you about. So Matt, do you have a book recommendation for us besides the Bible? The Bible is assumed.
The last book I read was about Microsoft Azure, which I would not recommend unless you're trying to fall asleep at night.
Or become an Azure administrator.
I'll just go back to a classic, Mere Christianity.
Ah,
Good
excellent.
book.
C.S. Lewis, genius writer.
Yeah. Well, Matt did successfully read the Azure Administrator book and pass the test, making him as close to a Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer as you can get anymore. So congratulations on that. Well done.
Thanks.
Once again, Matt, great to have you here. Thanks for coming on the Software Showcase, and we hope that everybody finds themselves more digitally secure than they did 42 minutes ago.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
See you next time. Bye-bye.